Hello, everybody. It is the me, Game Penguin 21, and today, well, we're going to be doing some good old topic parkour, as Rev would call it, but as I call it, the stories and salt that I wasn't able to get to because of the amount of stories and salt that has been coming out. This is going to be a bunch of different stories, and again, this is all stuff that I didn't think deserved its own video, kind of jam-packed together into one video in and of itself, and this just allows me to go through it, and I'm probably going to make this like a monthly just cleaning up of certain specific stories. In fact, this past month I've been basically kind of going through and being like, does this add anything to stuff, and is this stuff that I wanted to talk about? But overall, this is just some of the actual outlying things and some of the more bigger stories that ended up happening. So, yeah, we've got people such as Alyssa Mercante and them leaving Kotaku, as well as PlayStation fanboys still somehow coping and, going over the fact that they're like thing that they bought is, better than the alternative, despite the fact that it has less features, as well as several other different things, and even some salt from other places as well, and some misinformation. But not from me, obviously. With that being said, let's get started. Starting, of course, off with that Melissa Mercante video, but, of course, just so you know, please like and subscribe if you want to support what it is that I do. So, yeah. Anyway, starting off with, of course, Alyssa Mercante. Now, Alyssa Mercante, as we've talked about before in a number of videos, has actually decided to leave Kotaku. Originally, Alyssa Mercante used to be a kind of specific model, apparently, before she became a journalist, quote-unquote, and now has apparently decided to leave Kotaku and try to make it on her own in terms of gaming journalism. Unsure as to what she has, but she decided to be very, very classy and leave this interesting notice up on her Twitter account for all to see. Work news. After exactly 2 years. Wow, really? Jesus Christ. I've decided to leave Kotaku and my role as senior editor. I am eternally grateful for Kotaku's editorial team, all that they have taught me during my time there. They are some of the best in the business, and I will forever be proud to have shared some masthead with him. Don't know how to pronounce that. They continuously fight to maintain the editorial pillars at Kotaku. Great to hold on to their journalistic integrity, which I think is long since dead, in the face of increasing pressure to comprise that. It's been a long few months during which I've learned a lot about myself and my value as a woman and a writer. Really? This is the right decision for me. I have some things in the work and then down to the pike, and keep your eyes peeled. Oh, we probably will, especially with the top bit here saying also kiss my ass. Very classy, as always. But they had a little bit more to say. The reason why I have this next image up here, I'm not going to read it out entirely because I want to move on a little bit quicker to this. So, the basic thing was that they were doing a number of things to promote things such as homophobia and Christianity. Apparently, this is all alleged misinformation and things like that. Whoever the fuck cares. I don't really care. But they also wanted to have decently popular gaming streamers and Metacritic rise and the scene of meteoric rise and probably early, shortly after adopting more reactivity views. DM/email me. Apparently, I think she wants to do sort of a hit piece or something like that on the commentary people that have decided to cover her wild antics for the number of times here. Again, I'm not sure if this was related to one thing or if this is related to another thing. I just happened to have found this, and this was in the shuffle of stuff here. Also, an interesting note as well is that Kotaku writers, at least at this point in this specific story, were also on a mass firing in terms of Kotaku. Now, I don't have the specific article to really kind of reference here because, again, we're moving along a little bit quickly over this story, but Alyssa Mercante apparently, or allegedly, was not a part of this, but there was a number of people that were conspiracizing that she was a part of this, but she was able to leave because of her seniority position, and, you know how these kinds of things work, where some of the people on lower on the totem pole get fired, quote-unquote, whereas some of the other people that are higher up and have more influence are able to, casually bow out while still retaining a lot of the stuff and stake within the company, though unsure about that. But I will also say this is, again, the same Alyssa Mercante that basically says, try and remember that this is a vocal minority whose influence is artificially ballooned by sites like X and YouTube rewarding rage bait. Real people in gaming don't give a fuck about the shit they're screaming about. Considering the fact that a lot of people like those videos and a lot of people watch those videos, I would say the opposite is true. And that we are probably one of the more people that have a little bit more of the quote-unquote journalistic integrity that Alyssa Mercante tries to see that Kotaku apparently has. So, But anyway, moving right along here to a more interesting PS5 news. We have apparently how the PS5 has sold about 65.5 million units, and their best game of the year only sold about 1.5 million. Congrats on reaching about 2.3% of the installed base, I guess, where they were talking to someone who was saying, oh, they sold a whole bunch of units of these things. Yeah, a lot of those people probably didn't buy these games or these consoles to play the same games, but again, apparently they did. Again, I'm not even sure if these numbers are correct or not, and again, I'm fairly certain he's also talking about the best game that was a first-party PlayStation game, so just, that whole thing seems to happen there. But this was one of the interesting ones. Zombie Tech. We will come back to them a little bit later in the video, but this was one that decided to need its own actual frame to do this, because this is a very interesting article. I might do a more longer video on this because this is a very interesting article that I leafed through it a little bit, and it is fascinating. But Zubitech says that PC Gamer on a PS5 Pro review, saying that the PS5 Pro gives console players the, quote, guilt-free 60 FPS that PC players have enjoyed for years. And that is mostly correct. I do actually, again, want to go into this article at some point, so I'm going to kind of leave it here, saying that it's, a win for frame rates snobs out there. It seems like a, quote, backhanded compliment here. I do plan on making a longer form video on this, but I wanted to mention it here because this is a very kind of strange article where, again, it says, oh yeah, these games get these amazing guilt-free 60 FPS that the PC gamers have enjoyed for years, yet somehow these people are still frame rate snobs and don't understand that the graphics are more important, despite the fact that not many people really agree with that. To, again, one of those articles that I might go back to at some point, but for now, we continue. In a more upsetting news, this is more of a news that is very personal to me. I threw this in here because I really just wanted to kind of give it its time in the sun. But the unfortunate update is that Dave Jewett has been made redundant from his job at GameStop after a decade on the hunt. He's on the hunt for work. And I believe that Dave Jewett was the person who was helping along with the amazing videos of Jonathan Ferguson, who is a gun expert at I believe the England gun not gun appreciation thing, but the England, warfare museum, or something like that, he's a gun expert on, historical guns, and he was the one who was breaking down a lot of these things, and they lost this person, who I believe was either the co-host or an editor on there. I am a little bit very upset about this, mainly due to the fact that I love this show, and I love this because, again, I am very American. So, yeah. But overall, a little bit upsetting. Best of luck to you, Dave. I know that I'm a little bit late to this, but hope you do find better work and more interesting things. Next up here with Pyro, we have a little bit of misinformation here. Now, the Sony president, COO, and CFO says that they are done making games like Concord, and moving forward from 2025 and all years, they will release multiple AAA single-player games PlayStation is known for, with the readers adding context saying that this actually was not the case. Yes, you gotta love when the readers adding context and community notes basically decide to say, F you, and fuck over your entire thing here. So, congratulations, Pyro, trying to spread information and community notes up your butthole. Hooray! Again, another quick one there. Next up here, we have more PS5 Pro salt of people trying to justify their purchases. Starting, of course, off with D Batch here, saying the PS5 Pro haters not going to like this, lol. Dragon's Dogma 2 hitting high 60s into the 70s on the PS5 Pro. The base consoles are 37 FPS and lower. Yup, they are big mad. As you can clearly see that these are going into 64 as well as a couple other stuff with things such as RTS on as well as low latency on and a few other things. And yes, I guess this is very good to see. This is only a screenshot and he had like a whole gameplay section here. I'm not going to play the clip for you. It's not even worth it. But again, the fact that he has to have RTS on or like RTS, which I believe is a thing. I'm not sure what the fuck that little HUD at the bottom is. Whatever it is, it probably means that he has RTS on in order to hit 60 FPS. Again, cool that you can hit 60. It doesn't really matter, especially in the fact of, like, well, I mean, I guess it does matter. And you know what? Good for you. The amount that I care right now about this clip is very little. Speaking of people who care very little about apparent console warring, but totally do, Nicola, back over here with the PS5 Pro, de facto improves the PS5 Portal as well. Crisper image carries over to the little guy, as well as making more stable frame rates. Even latency seem better. Could just be placebo. I'm fairly certain it might be a little bit of placebo, but at the same time, he is technically streaming to this device, so the bigger power could in some ways be better. Again, I'm not too certain about if they've improved the latency with the PS5 actual streaming system for it, but again, this is more of one of those things where Nicola has continuously tried to justify using the PlayStation Portal for a lot of times. I think we've covered this enough times to basically say that that's whatever. Another thing here is The Matrix Awakens runs at 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro. It's beautiful. Yes, The Matrix Awakens, which I believe was supposed to be a tech demo for the Unreal Engine 5, and was also a promotional tech demo for a movie. So it's a movie tie-in tech demo type game made on Unreal Engine 5, running at 60 on the PS5 Pro, meaning that it wasn't, or at least it supposedly wasn't, running on 60 before this. Very strange, very strange. Next up here, we have Mesh. We're kind of retweeting the Beheaded here, saying, trying to play a game where you like everything except the gameplay, and saying, no offense, but how can you like a literal game and not the gameplay? That is true. See, the thing is that I wanted to put this here because as a more of a slight opinionated piece in the middle of this, you can like a game without liking the gameplay. For example, one of the games that I do actually like is God of War. I won't buy it for several reasons, and the main one being PSN account, and I don't want PlayStation accounts for whatever, for my own personal reasons. And again, if you like the God of War Ragnarok stuff, that's fine. The gameplay looked pretty good, everything looked fine, and the story looked like that. But, again, the other one that I can think of would be Horizon Zero Dawn. That game looked fucking cool. It looked amazing. It had pretty interesting story and a pretty decent concept. The gameplay did not hook me at all, made me bored after about an hour and a half, and I set the game down and deleted it off my hard drive. I couldn't get through it. The same thing with Spider-Man. It's a very good game. It's a very solid game for a very particular set of people. I just know that I'm not that people, and it did actually feel like, you know, try the whole thing. And this is a Tokyo Ghoul reference here, so it's not actually vomiting. But, yeah. On to the next thing, where we talk about Portal Rock 77. Final Fantasy XVI had a massive flop, apparently, on the PC, selling around 289k copies since September, the launch, compared to the 3 million on the first week of PS5. Now, I do want to say that Final Fantasy XVI extremely, quote, underperformed on PC for probably a number of reasons, and not just because it came out on PC, as the PlayStation fanboys would put it. No, it came out very late, and, you know, many people already had moved on to other stuff. as well as the fact that I'm not sure if the 280k units sold was taken from SteamDB or anything like that. This is also back in November, so again, towards the beginning of this month. It's quite interesting how apparently this is, quote, underperforming, despite the fact that those nearly 290k units would not have been sold otherwise. Again, those are still pretty solid numbers for a game that this is this old, but it's almost like if you launch the game alongside the game and include the PC guys in the hype, people will buy the game more. So, you know, maybe it'll help. Now, this next one is with the Game Awards. Now, the Game Awards is currently being held up and coming out to this. We're going to wrap it back around again to the Game Awards later down the line in this video. But the Game Awards are going on, and people ask the question about DLCs, expansion pack, remakes, remasters, and stuff like that, where the Game Awards basically said, yes, all of those things are available and put up for the Game of the Year. Where I can agree with most people here in saying that the DLC, expansion pack, and stuff should be their own category alongside the remakes and remasters. All of this should be put into its own category, with the Game of the Year being the best game that released in the year. Now, of course, obviously, there are two schools of thought in this. The two schools of thought is that because the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC had, quote, enough game and stuff to be one game, then that means that they are 1,000% going to nominate for it, which they did, by the way. This is, again, an old post, and I'm getting to it just now. But they did nominate the actual DLC, as well as a couple remakes, and I think one mobile game, which was like a card game or something like that. Very strange, like platter of games across this one, but I would definitely say that overall the DLC shouldn't be into there for the same. It's the same reason why remakes shouldn't also be up for a Game of the Year. While they did release this year, sure, why not? They are remakes of games that were already made back in the day. I do think that they should have two categories for best DLC or add-on content and for best remakes being eligible for its own thing. I do think that those two would go a long way into kind of differentiating that and giving out more awards, making it a bit longer, and maybe making people a little less upset. But I've stopped taking the whole thing here seriously. But I will say I am excited for this year because I hope and I pray that the finals makes a return back to there and slaps their nuts on the table, basically making the entire thing just one big finals whatever. Yes, because the finals actually did release. The only reason why I watched it last year was just to see the finals release the trailer and then release the game at the Game Awards. More companies should do that. That game is fucking awesome. Anyway. Now we go over and zoom on back to Zubitech. Sorry, I hit the microphone. Now, Zubitech basically has a bunch of different numbers here that seems to be very strange. Now, X-Vault Gaming basically does a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 UK's sale set per platform, where the PS5 sold 70, 16, and 10, and other stuff like that, where they're saying Xbox does need PlayStation except for first-party Xbox games coming to PlayStation, despite the fact that a lot of people, or some people, would say that Black Ops 6 is an Xbox first-party game, despite the fact that I don't think that it is, and again, that gets into very weird stuff. But again, I don't trust Zubitech for several reasons, one, of course, being that he is a fanboy and, you know, does the fanboy things. But these numbers, I believe, were actually supposedly the physical sales for the UK specifically, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you really think about it, so oops. But yeah, to basically go along with these numbers, there is another set of numbers from Zubitech here. That was the Capcom fiscal year 2024 sales per platform. Now, these number breakdowns do seem a bit strange, with PC being at 44K. Now, why is that? If you look at any of the number of the stuff, at least on Steam and other things like that, the Capcom has released a bunch of games this year, and a lot of them actually outnumber, seriously, in just reviews, the amount of games put onto there. Just to name a few here. Now, of course, absolutely there is, like, some people out there who will take any sorts of numbers and essentially make them into whatever they want to, which is why, in this context, readers added a little bit of context. The detailed Capcom financial reports published on October 29th, 2024, 54% of the game sales were made on PC. Therefore, these numbers are wrong. So where exactly did he get these numbers? These numbers seem to be quite skewed in PlayStation's favor. Well, taking a look at specifically Capcom sales split from shipments of Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy 20, to fiscal year 2017 to 2024, the amount of these things seem to be shipped specifically physical copies. Now, of course, all of these numbers here seem to be what he's been trying to kind of pull here, with PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, and PC all basically essentially coming into the places where you would think that they would come to when it comes to at least physical sales, because PC is the most digital, and I don't think that these numbers reflect the accuracy of the actual numbers. And he then decides to double down in the comments, summing out with Eric saying, "Is that physical only? Seems weird that it sells so poor on PC," where he says that it's total shipments, so only physical. Which, again, if you're talking about shipments of games, you don't ship games across internet itself. So it's not sales, it's just shipment of games across the ocean, apparently, which allegedly means physical. So, yeah. And finally, we're coming to the last biggest thing here, which was the thing that happened basically last week that has been probably taking over your feed, and that being according to Sony, that they are in talks to talk about and acquire Kadoka. The company that kind of owns a lot of anime and as well as From Software, which is the more important thing in this context. Essentially, Kadokawa, I believe is the name here, they are in talks to being acquired by Sony, and a lot of people are basically talking, at least in the gaming space, about how it's going to be into From Software's thing. And Dennis here, Deus, I guess, here talks about how Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard King is, along with ZeniMax, over the last 3 years has been great, but Sony has been trying to buy a well-established studios is bad for business. I mean, what have they done with a lot of the companies that they have bought? I mean, there's definitely a few of them that have basically flopped their entire games. Concord comes to mind. A lot of their other games, like, what has Destiny done other than completely make some other weird shit up? And no one really liked or understood the Blizzard, Activision, whatever. But again, people trust Microsoft just a smidge more, and I know that I may have defended Microsoft's thing here, but I retract some of it where we knew some of the stuff that was happening, and, you know, I've gone back on those words because I was proven wrong, and I basically say, hey, I was proven wrong, here's the reason why. But of course, this also officially comes from IGN as well, with them kind of reaffirming this, and I wanted to just kind of end off this little segment with two schools of thought that seems to be coming out of this. One from the PlayStation fanboy-ish side, as well as one from the side of the people who are against this, so it's just one and the other. With Reno here talking about how, again, the Microsoft Activision deal with Sony potentially buying from Sunfox, where, quote, makes sense, especially since Bungie, a acquisition along with Sony's live service endeavors, has been a colossal disappointment. I agree. The colossal disappointment of Sony's acquisition of Bungie is seriously being a lot to desire, because Marathon does seem to be non-existent with anything here, so it just seems very strange. But obviously, as well, there's several other different things alongside that. But it does, in some ways, make sense, but it also is them trying to get a monopoly over the anime scene. You might see those from the anime scene projectors more specifically. I'm not an anime guy, even though I watch anime. I would be more of a casual anime watcher, though I have watched every episode of Dan Dan and will continue to watch Dan Dan, because goddamn, Dan Dan is fucking art, and I might make a video on it because it is that fucking good. But I digress. The other school of thought comes here from Avowed Principle. Again, these are very simplistic stuff, and these were just two things that I said, saying, this is why I dislike Sony. They keep wanting to control over anime, SMH. Why anime? Because Kadokawa is the only parent company of From Software, is not only the parent company of From Software, but is also the biggest entertainment companies of Japan. They also hold monopoly over light novel industry there. Practically. Again, they practical the light novel industry, not whatever there. So again, it's more of just them trying to take over anime. This is again brought up here. But the other school of thought is that people don't like it. And the last two ones are just some fun things to kind of end off this whatever the hell video that we have here with Jolly Wangkor here saying, seeing tons of comments being like, who are these people? The content creator of the year, I believe this is for the Game Awards. We're reaching a level of content saturation that no matter how terminally online you are, you will have a massive holes in your pop culture knowledge, where I look at some of these and I only recognize one, and that being Usada, the bunny VTuber one. It's the only one that I recognize. Everyone else, I have no clue who the heck these guys are. Which is strange because, you know, normally I keep on top of a lot of things like this. But obviously I'm going to have some gaps in knowledge. And, you know, I guess he is just right, and I just find it interesting how no one recognizes most of the characters, and it just seems to be like the VTuber might take it this year just because of the popularity. But that's another thing entirely. With finally coming in here with the last thing for PS5, as well as the Xbox and Windows, whatever, talking about how Silent Hill 2 and stuff, a lot of engine did not ship hardware ray tracing on PC. This does as an option and is better for G whatever, with Japan hates Xbox continuing to show why I very rarely cover him anymore, saying the following. You're so bitter this is a PlayStation exclusive, despite the fact that it's also on Windows. Go buy a new skirt and panties. Maybe that will make you feel better. So happy this game isn't on Xbox. PS5 Pro enhanced soon as well. Will be better than the PC version by a mile. Jesus Christ. Look at those images as well as the one on Windows. That one just looks like a much interesting, different... It's... Do I need to say anything about this? No? Cool. I can end the video. All right. Anyway, I really do hope that you enjoyed this episode of what I'm going to call content parkour, or basically just the sweeping away of certain salt that I just had lying around. Overall, what have we learned today? Well, Alyssa Mercante is going to be going on to doing, quote, bigger and better things. Apparently, PC is, you know, the guilt-free way to enjoy 60 FPS. People need to understand jobs are really important. The CEO is going to continue to do what he does. People trying to justify a lot of things in terms of their aspects of gaming. And Zubbytech needs to not present misinformation at all. Like, ever. Jesus Christ. With that being said, my name is GamePango21. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form other than a like and subscribe, because always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. I do have one more album probably releasing either early next year or into December. No Christmas songs this year because I don't feel like making music that much, but I do have this one album that I've been working on, so work out for that. If you want to, again, support me in other ways, you can find all of the music and all the other stuff, links to everything in the description below if you want to support me monetarily, whatever the fuck. In any case, thank you so much for watching. My name is GamePango21, again, and a peace off.